Hey there, everybody. So I said that I would make a part two of that video. This is a technical part two, but it's not the same loaf of bread. This is actually the second loaf of bread that I've made in this Amazon Basics bread machine, and I had somebody request that I show the results, and I meant to. However, of course, things happen, and people were home. You have to take into consideration that the loaf of bread takes 3 or 4 hours to bake. So this is actually a honey wheat, or not a honey wheat, a honey white bread recipe that I got from a YouTuber. Her channel is Amy Learns to Cook, and I've never tried it before. And even if this doesn't turn out great, it's not the fault of her recipe, because she had so many people talking about how it was such a great recipe. But I put it on light for one, and two, it really cooked up out of the pot or the pan. So it's really kind of my fault for cooking it or baking this loaf of bread with the recipe that they gave, because they used more of a horizontal loaf machine, and they also used they baked it in their oven. So that is the loaf of bread for you. This one, the actual kneading piece came out with the bread this time. But you can see it's a really nice looking loaf of bread. Other than that, which is honestly just because the way that the dough ball rested in there, I think that if this machine had a larger surface area to work with, it wouldn't be trying to spin such a hefty loaf on top of a narrow area, if you know what I mean. So it's basically just kind of churning a ball of dough rather than really being able to knead it and stretch it out. So this might have been a little bit too big of a recipe for it. I did 4 cups of flour for it. So we will slice right into it and see how it is. I've never tried a honey white bread before. I'm not really a fan of sweet breads, but people were talking about how it looks so great, and excuse me, hers looked so good. So I was like, I really want to try this. So let's take a slice into it. And I'm probably going to have to cut it off camera because I can't hold the bread and cut at the same time. So there it is. You can see even that top piece, it cooked really nicely. You can see the steam coming up from it. If I move that pan, you can really see the steam coming up through it. I actually just came home from lunch, and this must have been done for a little while now. Now, like I said, because this is more of a vertical loaf machine, the heating element is located towards the bottom of the unit. So a large loaf recipe like this may not be the smartest idea to cook in more of a vertical style loaf cooker, because you can see how much overhang it had over the top. The bread still feels very nicely cooked, but I don't know towards the end of the loaf if the consistency will be the same because of the batch size or the recipe size. So, but overall, I think that it looks like it did a really nice job. It rose up very high, way higher than most other machines that I have used. My Sunbeam never managed to rise a loaf of bread this tall. But you get a puller tube or a puller tool with this machine. So all you do is you just kind of use the tool to pull out your kneading blade, which will be piping hot because it was baking in there. They make some Breadman units that actually have a blade that folds down so it doesn't cook into the bread as much. So I'm going to taste this. It's really good. Nice, light. Not a lot of a honey taste to it. It definitely smelled very sweet when I came in, but it's got a very good flavor. To me, this is definitely more of a delicious general bread that I would use for sandwiches. And don't let the honey part fool you. But again, I probably only was able to put 2 tablespoons of honey into this because we ran out of honey very quickly. So just for a heads up, I think that it was a great recipe and the machine works phenomenal. So thanks for watching, and drop a comment if you have a question.